Have you ever considered that the story of humanity almost ended before it truly began? There was a time, deep in our past, when we were on the very edge of disappearing forever. Forget cities, nations, or technology. Picture a world with just a handful of our ancestors, a fragile species facing forces far greater than themselves. Imagine this. The Earth changed, suddenly and violently. The climate collapsed. Food sources that had sustained us for generations vanished almost overnight. The landscapes that were once home turned hostile and barren. What had always supported life now became a direct threat to it. At this point, humans were incredibly few in number, maybe only a few thousand individuals scattered across vast, harsh lands. They lived with no certainty of what tomorrow would bring. A single natural disaster, like a volcanic eruption or a prolonged drought, could have erased entire groups from existence. A few bad generations, a few failed hunts, a few wrong decisions, and the human story could have ended right there, forever. And this isn't a plot from a science fiction movie. It really happened. Scientists called this a population bottleneck. They believe there were moments in our prehistory when the total human population dropped so critically low that our extinction was not just possible, but almost unavoidable. Think about that. We were an endangered species. During these catastrophic periods, much larger, stronger animals disappeared. Entire species, some that had roamed the earth for millions of years, vanished without a trace, unable to adapt. Yet somehow, against all odds, we survived. How? What did we have that they didn't? This is the story of the day humanity almost ended. We're going to explore the terrifying conditions that pushed our ancestors to the absolute brink, the mistakes that nearly destroyed us, and the extraordinary traits that ultimately pulled us back. It's a journey into our deepest past to understand the resilience, the intelligence, and the sheer luck that allowed us to continue. This isn't just a story about danger and despair. It's a powerful testament to survival against impossible odds. It's about the spark of ingenuity and cooperation that refused to be extinguished, even in the darkest of times. Because if even one small detail, one single moment in that desperate struggle had gone differently, none of us would be here today. The world we know, our history, our future, it all hung by the thinnest of threads. So, what exactly happened? How did we make it through? Let's find out. The first topic of discussion is a world on the verge of collapse. Have you ever wondered what the scariest moment in human history was? Was it a war? A plague? Maybe an asteroid hurtling towards Earth? The truth is far more terrifying, and it happened long before any recorded history. It's a story hidden deep in our past, a time when our very existence hung by a thread, and the world itself was trying to erase us. Forget what you think you know about cavemen living simple lives. The reality was a nightmare. This is the story of humanity's closest call with extinction. Imagine a world on the verge of total collapse, long before cities, before writing, even before the first glimmers of what we call civilization. The planet that had nurtured our earliest ancestors began to turn against them. This wasn't a slow, gentle change. It was sudden, violent, and utterly unforgiving. It was a global catastrophe that struck without warning. Picture this. Temperatures plummeting across the globe. Ice sheets, miles thick, grinding their way across continents, swallowing everything in their path. The lush forests that provided food and shelter withered and died. The vast, open grasslands where herds of animals roamed turned to dust. The very ground beneath our ancestors' feet was transforming into a hostile, alien landscape. For these early humans, this was an apocalypse. They lived in complete harmony with nature, but also at its complete mercy. They had no supermarkets, no fortified houses, no emergency supplies. Survival was a day-to-day struggle, a constant gamble. When the environment failed, they felt it instantly, and with brutal force. Food became a ghost. The animals they relied on for every part of their survival, meat for strength, hides for warmth, bones for tools, either vanished, migrating to unknown lands, or simply died out. Imagine the gnawing emptiness of hunger becoming a constant companion. It weakened their bodies, making them easy prey for disease. The weakest of children were the first to suffer, but even the strongest adults found themselves struggling to endure the relentless cold and the chaos of seasons gone wild. And if that wasn't enough, the earth itself seemed to be raging. Colossal volcanic eruptions tore the sky apart, spewing millions of tons of ash into the atmosphere. This dense, dark cloud choked the sun, blocking its light and warmth, plunging the planet into an even deeper freeze. Sunlight, the source of all life, became a distant memory. Mighty rivers, the lifelines of the ancient world, violently changed their course, unleashing catastrophic floods that could wash away a camp and an entire generation in a single night. Entire regions of the planet became uninhabitable wastelands. The delicate balance that had allowed human life to flourish was shattering. In this frozen, starving world, our ancestors were not alone. Predators still roamed the land, saber-toothed cats, giant bears, packs of dire wolves. But now, humans were weaker than ever before. The biting cold stiffened their muscles and slowed their movements. Constant hunger dulled their senses and reaction times. Fear became the air they breathed. Every shadow could hide a threat. Every rustle in the dead grass could be their last. Many other species faced these same horrific conditions, and for countless of them, this was the end of their line. Extinction wasn't a rare event. It was the new normal, and humans, physically, were nothing special. We weren't the strongest, the fastest, or the toughest creatures out there. Compared to the other beasts of this era, we were fragile. If survival was purely a contest of muscle, claws, and speed, our story would have ended right there, a forgotten footnote in the planet's history. The world offered no second chances. Every single decision was a life or death gamble. Where do we go? Do we follow the ghost herds into the unknown? When is it safe to hunt? Do we stay here and risk starvation? Or do we flee and face the predators in the open? One wrong choice, one moment of hesitation, could mean the end, not just for an individual, but for their entire family, their entire group. This was the moment that should have broken us. This was the point where the human story should have faded to black. Instead, something remarkable happened. Pushed to the absolute brink, humanity entered its most perilous and defining trial. Our numbers plummeted so drastically that we became a critically endangered species. We were scattered, isolated, and fighting a losing battle against a world that wanted us gone. This desperate struggle for survival, this bottleneck in our history, would ultimately shape everything we were to become. It forged us in fire and ice, and it leads directly to the most frightening and perhaps the most important chapter of our entire past, a chapter that explains how we, against all odds, are even here to tell the tale. We're about to uncover what happened when our population dwindled to just a few thousand individuals, and how that tiny, fragile group managed to save us all. The second topic of our discussion is when humans became rare. Did you know there was a time when humans were not the dominant species on this planet? A time when we were so few, so scattered, that we were teetering on the very brink of extinction. This isn't science fiction. It's a chapter of our deep history, pieced together by science. Imagine, for a moment, the entire human population, all of us, reduced to just a few thousand individuals. That's smaller than the crowd at a small-town football game. At that level of vulnerability, our story could have ended with a single catastrophic event. One devastating disease, one season of failed hunts, one volcanic eruption, and humanity could have vanished forever. We were scattered across vast landscapes in tiny, isolated groups. If one group perished, its unique knowledge how to find water, what plants were safe to eat, how to make the best tools died with it. This isolation made a difficult existence even more precarious. Living in such small numbers created a cascade of problems. The most critical was a severe lack of genetic diversity. This made our species incredibly fragile and slow to recover from any losses. Every single life was precious. Every death was a blow to the entire group's chances of survival. Unlike today, where we have billions of people, there was no global safety net. There was no one to call for help. Humanity was alone, hanging on by a thread. But here's where our story takes a remarkable turn. We didn't just passively wait for the end. Faced with the ultimate challenge, we adapted. We evolved not just physically, but socially and intellectually. In these desperate times, our ancestors learned that cooperation was not just a nice idea. It was the key to survival. Small groups became tighter, more collaborative. They shared resources with extreme care, because wastefulness could mean starvation. Conflicts, which would weaken everyone, were avoided whenever possible. Every person had a role, and every role was vital. And most importantly, something profound happened in how we treated each other. We began to fiercely protect the very young and the very old. The children were, of course, the future, the only hope for continuing the lineage. But the elders were equally crucial. They were living libraries, carrying the accumulated wisdom of generations. They held the memory of the land, the rhythm of the seasons, the knowledge of hidden dangers, and the time-tested strategies for survival. Keeping them alive was a direct investment in the group's future. This focus on knowledge it's what set us apart. While many animal species rely almost purely on high birth rates to recover from population crashes, humans leverage something else. Our minds, even when our numbers were terrifyingly small, our ideas could survive and spread. Skills were taught from one person to another. Stories were shared around the fire, embedding critical lessons into the culture. The mistakes of the past were not forgotten. They became the guideposts for the future. This cultural memory, this shared consciousness, became our ultimate survival tool. Our ancestors also became incredibly resilient and mobile. They understood that when a place could no longer sustain them, they had to move. Migration was a huge risk, filled with unknown dangers, but often, staying put was a death sentence. This willingness to leave behind the familiar, to venture into the unknown in search of a better chance, is a hallmark of the human spirit that was forged in these ancient trials. They didn't just wander aimlessly, they explored, they learned, and they adapted to new environments. This period of near extinction was a crucible that forced incredible innovation. When the old ways of hunting stopped working because the game had moved or the climate had changed, new tools and new strategies had to be invented on the spot. When a simple lean-to wasn't enough to survive a harsh winter, better shelters were designed and built. Failure wasn't the end, it was a lesson. Every mistake provided data for the next attempt. This relentless cycle of trial, error, and improvement slowly, painfully, began to turn the tide. Humanity began to stabilize and grow again. Not because the world suddenly became a friendlier place, it didn't. The ice ages, the droughts, the predators, they were all still there. We survived and eventually thrived because we became smarter, more cooperative, and more resilient. This harrowing chapter in our history didn't just leave us with scars, it reshaped our very nature. Survival was no longer just about making it through the day. It became about planning for the future, protecting the next generation, and preserving knowledge for those yet to come. Think about that. Humanity was once wounded, rare, and fragile. We were an endangered species, but we were not defeated, and out of that very fragility, out of that struggle on the edge of oblivion, emerged the qualities that define us today. Our creativity, our cooperation, our unyielding drive to learn, and our incredible capacity to hope for a better tomorrow. Our greatest strengths were forged in our moment of greatest weakness. The story of our survival is the greatest comeback story ever told. The third topic of our discussion is nature turns against us. In the echoes of our when humanity's numbers had dwindled to a fragile few, the world itself turned against us. It wasn't just that survival was hard. The very environment became an active, hostile force. The planet, once a cradle, now seemed intent on shaking us off. Climate swings, which had always been a part of life, grew ferocious and unpredictable. The familiar rhythms of the seasons dissolved into chaos. Ecosystems that had sustained our ancestors for generations began to shift and unravel, making the old rules of survival obsolete. Imagine a world where the cold periods grew longer and colder each year. Ice sheets, once distant threats, began to creep into lands that had been temperate and full of life. The ground froze, refusing to yield the plants that people depended on. The animals, our primary source of food, altered their migration routes, sometimes disappearing entirely, leaving our ancestors to starve in a suddenly empty landscape. For small, isolated groups whose entire existence was built on the predictable turning of the seasons, this new uncertainty was a death sentence. Then came the extremes, sudden and merciless. Rivers that had flowed reliably for millennia dried up into cracked earth, turning fertile valleys into deserts of dust. Entire communities that had lived by these water sources were forced to abandon their homes or perish. In other regions, the opposite horror unfolded. Unprecedented floods would surge in the dead of night, erasing camps, washing away people, tools, and precious food stores without a sound. Violent storms, more powerful than anything ever witnessed, would rip through the land, tearing apart the fragile shelters that were the only defense against the elements. There were no warning systems, no satellites, no way to prepare or control these devastating events. Humanity was utterly at the mercy of a planet in turmoil, and as if the environmental chaos wasn't enough, disease began to spread like wildfire. The constant stress of survival, the gnawing hunger, and the lack of proper nutrition weakened immune systems. A single illness, something that might have been a minor inconvenience in better times, could now sweep through a small group and wipe it out in a matter of days. There were no antibiotics, no modern medicine. The only defenses were traditional knowledge, which was often not enough. In isolation, a grim choice that meant leaving the sick behind to die alone. The animal kingdom adapted to this new, harsh reality as well, and not in our favor. Predators, driven by their own desperate hunger, became bolder. They started to see humans not as a species to be avoided, but as potential prey. The competition for every scrap of food intensified, forcing our ancestors into direct, bloody conflict with powerful beasts they could not always defeat. The world was a shared, dangerous space, and the threats were closing in from all sides. It's important to understand that nature wasn't acting with conscious intent. The planet wasn't targeting humans. It didn't need to. The simple, brutal fact was that the environmental systems we relied upon had become unstable. Survival in this new world required a level of precision, timing, and resilience that was almost superhuman. A single mistake, a misread of the weather, a failed hunt, a poorly chosen campsite could erase a family, a clan. Years of careful, hard-won existence. We weren't the only species struggling. Across the globe, countless animals and plants failed to adapt. Their behaviors, their very biology, were hardwired for stable conditions that no longer existed. When the environment changed faster than instinct and evolution could keep up, extinction was the inevitable result. Humans were staring down that same abyss. We were on the brink. But this is where our story takes a turn. Faced with a world that was actively trying to kill them, our ancestors did something remarkable. Instead of resisting the overwhelming tide of change, they learned to flow with it. They became masters of adaptation. When a territory became barren and fruitless, they didn't stay and starve. They migrated, sometimes across entire continents, in search of new opportunities. When their primary prey vanished, they diversified their diet, learning to eat insects, shellfish, roots, and plants they had previously ignored. They became the ultimate generalists in a world that punished specialization. Their shelters, once simple and uniform, became marvels of innovation. They learned to build structures that could withstand stronger winds, colder temperatures, and heavier rains, using materials and designs specific to each new environment they entered. This flexibility became our most critical survival trait. Our ancestors stopped relying on a single, perfect solution. They embraced a culture of constant experimentation, a willingness to try new things, even when resources were terrifyingly scarce. Risk was no longer something to be avoided. It was a calculated part of daily life. Perhaps, most importantly, humans began to read their environment with a new, profound intensity. They became the world's greatest detectives. They watched the subtle shifts in the clouds, the behavior of birds, the way a plant's leaves curled before a drought. They learned to recognize the early warning signs of danger and to adjust their plans before disaster struck. They were no longer passive victims of nature's whims. They were active participants, learning its new language. Nature had turned against them, but humanity refused to surrender. This relentless struggle, this constant battle for existence, sharpened our minds in ways that nothing else could have. Survival became a full-time, all-consuming effort that demanded incredible levels of attention, cooperation, and rapid learning. Every day was a test, and failure was not an option. And through this crucible of constant, life-or-death pressure, something extraordinary emerged. The human mind, which had always been a useful tool, was forged into our ultimate weapon. Intelligence, the ability to learn, adapt, innovate, and communicate complex ideas, became humanity's primary defense against a hostile world. It was this cognitive firepower, born from desperation and honed by adversity, that allowed us to not only survive the storm but to eventually emerge from it, stronger and smarter than ever before. We didn't just endure the chaos, we learned from it. And that lesson would change the destiny of our species forever. The fourth topic of our discussion is survival through intelligence. Ever wondered how we, a species without sharp claws, thick fur, or overwhelming strength, managed to not just survive, but dominate a planet filled with predators and unpredictable dangers? The answer isn't in our muscles, but in our minds. When brute force failed and nature threw its worst at us, early humans leaned into their greatest advantage: intelligence. Unlike physical traits, which take generations to evolve, intelligence is adaptable. A new idea, a spark of insight, could save an entire community almost instantly. This was a gift. Humans stopped just reacting to danger and started anticipating it. They began planning ahead, storing food for lean times, mapping out safer travel routes, and learning to avoid unnecessary risks. It was a fundamental shift from being victims of circumstance to becoming architects of their own survival. Think about the tools they used. What started as simple, sharp stones quickly evolved. Our ancestors began shaping rocks with purpose, creating specialized tools for every imaginable task: sharp flakes for cutting, heavy stones for crucian, and pointed spears for hunting and defense. Each tiny improvement made life a little easier, a little safer. It reduced the effort needed to get food and increased the chances of success. This wasn't just tool-making, it was problem-solving in physical form. With this explosion of innovation, knowledge itself became the most valuable resource. More precious than the strongest hunter or the fastest runner was the person who knew how to find water, how to track game, or how to distinguish edible plants from poisonous ones. This knowledge wasn't just hoarded, it was sarid. Skills were deliberately passed down from one generation to the next. Children learned, not just through instinct, but through careful observation and direct guidance from their elders. This created a powerful chain of wisdom, a cultural continuity that could withstand even the harshest of times. And then came language. Even in its earliest, most basic forms, language was like a superpower. It amplified intelligence exponentially. A simple grunt or gesture could warn of a predator. A series of sounds could convey a complex plan for a group hunt. Mistakes could be explained, preventing others from repeating them. Learning, which was once a solitary trial and error process, suddenly became a collective, accelerated endeavor. The tribe's brain power became interconnected. This led to one of the most uniquely human traits: treating failure as a part of progress, not as a final defeat. Problem-solving became a survival habit. If one hunting technique failed, they didn't just give up. They analyzed what went wrong and tried another. This iterative, analytical mindset is what truly set our ancestors apart. Most animals simply respond to danger. Humans learned to analyze it, understand it, and outsmart it. This ability allowed us to venture into and conquer environments where we had no natural physical advantage. Frigid, icy regions, vast, open plains, and dense, unfamiliar jungles all became manageable. Not because we evolved fur or wings, but because we used our intelligence to prepare. We learned to build shelters, create clothing from animal skins, and control fire. Our creativity became our armor. Intelligence also fundamentally reshaped our social structures. Leadership started to shift. It was no longer just about who was the strongest or most aggressive. Instead, groups began to follow those with experience, wisdom, and sound judgment. The best decision maker, the one who could guide the group through uncertainty and toward safety, became the natural leader. This was the birth of strategy and foresight in social dynamics. Over thousands of years, this created a powerful, self-reinforcing feedback loop. Better decisions led to better survival rates. Better survival meant that the knowledge behind those decisions was preserved and passed on. This accumulated knowledge, in turn, fueled even better decisions in the future. This virtuous cycle is what propelled humanity forward, pulling us further and further away from the brink of extinction. We were no longer just surviving moment to moment, day to day. We were building long-term strategies, creating a foundation for the future. And as intelligence was shared through cooperation and communication, it unlocked an even more powerful force: unity. Because while thinking alone was a powerful survival tool, thinking together, well, that was destined to change the world. It was the moment we truly became human. The fifth topic of discussion is the power of human unity. Have you ever wondered what our greatest superpower is? It's not our intelligence alone. It's something far more powerful, something that allowed us to not just survive, but to thrive on this planet. It's our ability to unite. Think about it. On their own, early humans were incredibly vulnerable. We weren't the strongest or the fastest creatures out there. In the harsh, unforgiving, prehistoric world, a lone human was an easy target, a fleeting existence against overwhelming odds. But together, humans became something else entirely. We became a force of nature. This unity wasn't just a nice idea. It was a fundamental survival mechanism. Cooperation was non-negotiable. It was the difference between life and death. Sharing food wasn't just an act of generosity. It was a strategy to ensure that a bad hunt didn't mean starvation for the entire group. It meant that during lean seasons, fewer people perished. This collective pantry ensured the group's resilience. Working together transformed how we gathered resources. Hunting, for example, became dramatically more efficient and safer. Instead of one person risking their life against a massive beast, a coordinated group could use strategy, numbers, and communication to take down prey far larger and more dangerous than any single individual could handle. The risk was shared, and the reward was shared. And it wasn't just about food. Standing together offered protection. A united group could fend off predators that would easily pick off a lone wanderer. They could defend their territory and resources from rival groups. There was safety in numbers, a living shield forged from mutual trust. and a shared desire to see the next sunrise. What truly set us apart from many other animals was the depth of our social bonds. These weren't fleeting alliances of convenience. They were deep connections, built on a foundation of trust, sophisticated communication, and a shared sense of purpose. Survival ceased to be an individual struggle and became a group responsibility. Your problem was my problem. Your success was our success. This shift towards unity fundamentally changed our behavior in profound ways. One of the most remarkable developments was how we began to care for the sick and injured. Now, from a purely cold, logical perspective, this might seem counterintuitive. Why would a group expend precious resources and energy protecting someone who could not contribute to the hunt or gather food? It seems like a liability, but this was one of humanity's wisest gambles. This act of compassion was also an act of incredible foresight. By protecting and healing the injured, the group was preserving something invaluable: experience and knowledge. A healed hunter, even with a permanent limp, still carried the wisdom of countless hunts in their mind. They could teach younger, faster hunters where to find prey, how to read tracks, and how to avoid danger. They became living libraries of survival skills. And this brings us to the vital role of elders. In a world without writing, elders were the group's memory. They were the walking, talking archives of generations of knowledge. They remembered which plants were medicinal and which were poisonous. They knew the safe migration routes and the timing of seasonal changes. Their memories were a living map, a guide to navigating the world and its many dangers. Protecting the elders wasn't just about respecting age. It was about protecting the group's most critical asset, its accumulated wisdom. Children were also central to this equation of survival. Unlike many species, humans invest an incredible amount of time and energy into raising their young. This extended childhood, which could last for years, was crucial. It was a long apprenticeship in being human. During this time, children weren't just learning how to find food. They were learning language, complex social rules, traditions, and the values of their group. This long learning period allowed culture to grow stronger than raw instinct. Each new generation didn't have to start from scratch. They stood on the shoulders of the ones who came before. And the glue holding all of this together: communication. The development of language, even in its early forms, was gestures, sounds, and eventually words allowed for intricate planning and coordination. A group could now strategize for a complex hunt, warn each other of approaching danger, and resolve internal conflicts without resorting to constant, destructive violence. Imagine trying to coordinate a dozen people to ambush a herd of bison using only grunts. Language made teamwork exponentially more effective. Unity also had a powerful effect on internal group dynamics. It acted as a force against self-destruction. When resources became scarce, the potential for internal conflict was immense. It could easily tear a group apart from the inside. But early humans learned a vital lesson. Cooperation increased everyone's chances of survival, while internal fighting weakened the entire group, making them vulnerable to outside threats. This created a powerful form of natural selection, but for behavior. Groups that were riddled with infighting and division simply didn't last. They fractured, they weakened, and they disappeared from the pages of history. But the groups that mastered cooperation, the ones that stayed united, thrived. They were more resilient, more successful, and better able to adapt to changing environments over vast stretches of time. This process embedded unity deep within our human identity. Helping others evolved from a simple act of kindness into a core survival strategy. Empathy wasn't just a feeling. It was a tool that strengthened the social fabric. Altruism wasn't just it was an investment in the collective, an investment that paid dividends in the form of a stronger, more resilient community. Through this unity, humans managed to multiply their intelligence. An idea born in one mind didn't stay there. It was discussed, debated, and improved upon by the group. A new discovery, like how to create a sharper stone tool or how to start a fire more reliably, could spread like wildfire through the community. Knowledge ceased to be the property of an individual. It became the property of the group. It became a collective inheritance. This collective brainpower, this united intelligence, allowed humans to tackle challenges that would have been utterly insurmountable for any single person. Building shelters, navigating vast distances, surviving ice ages. These were achievements of the collective, not the individual. This shared strength prepared humanity for the final, incredible shift, escaping the cycle of extinction that had claimed so many other species, and beginning the long journey of actively reshaping our own future. The story of humanity is not the story of a lone genius. It's the story of us. It's the story of how, time and time again, we found strength, resilience, and progress by coming together. The next time you work with a team, help a neighbor, or share an idea, remember you're tapping into that ancient, powerful force. You're continuing the legacy that allowed our ancestors to survive and build the world we live in today. The sixth topic of discussion is escaping extinction. Have you ever wondered how we, as a species, made it this far? How did humanity, seemingly fragile and outmatched, not only survive, but thrive on a planet filled with predators, disasters, and uncertainty? The answer isn't found in a single dramatic moment of escape. It's a story of a slow, fragile, and deliberate climb back from the very edge of extinction. Imagine a time when our numbers had dwindled to a terrifyingly small group, a few thousand individuals, scattered and vulnerable. Extinction wasn't just a possibility, it was the most likely outcome. But something incredible happened. In that crucible of desperation, the foundations of modern humanity were forged. It wasn't brute strength that saved us. It was a powerful combination of three things: intelligence, cooperation, and adaptability. Think about it. One person facing a saber-toothed cat is a victim. A group of people, armed with sharp rocks, coordinated plans, and a shared goal. That's a hunting party. That's a force to be reckoned with. This shift from individual survival to group survival was revolutionary. We started to communicate more effectively, to share knowledge, to plan for the future. The memory of a failed hunt became a lesson for the next one. The knowledge of which plants were safe to eat was passed down from one generation to the next. These weren't just random acts of teamwork. This was the birth of culture, of a shared consciousness. We began to look at the world differently. We didn't just see a river, we saw a source of water, a fishing ground, and a potential travel route. We didn't just see a storm, we learned to recognize the signs and seek shelter before it hit. This ability to think ahead, to prepare, was our superpower. While other animals were purely reactive, humans became proactive. And at the heart of this transformation was one of our greatest discoveries: fire. Fire did more than just provide warmth. It fundamentally changed our relationship with the world. It turned the terrifying, predator-filled night into a time of safety and community. Around the fire, we could cook our food, making it easier to digest and unlocking more nutrients, which in turn fueled our growing brains. It was around these ancient hearths that stories were told, bonds were strengthened, and complex plans were hatched. The darkness was no longer an absolute barrier. We had conquered the night. Alongside fire came the relentless improvement of our tools, from simple sharpened stones to more sophisticated hand axes and spears. Each innovation was a leap forward. These weren't just tools for hunting. They were tools for building, for crafting, for shaping our environment to suit our needs. We could cut down trees to build shelters, scrape hides to make clothing, and dig for roots. We were no longer just living in the world. We were starting to build our own. With these new abilities, fire, tools, and advanced cooperation, we began to expand. We pushed out from our ancestral homelands into environments that would have once been certain death. We moved into colder regions, learning to create better clothing and more robust shelters. We crossed deserts, figuring out how to find and store water. We settled along coastlines, mastering the art of fishing and harvesting from the sea. Each new environment was a puzzle, and with our collective intelligence, we learned how to solve it. This expansion wasn't reckless. It was built on the hard-won lessons of the past. The near-extinction event had been a brutal teacher. It forced our ancestors to become incredibly resourceful and cautious. Every decision was weighed against the ultimate cost: the survival of the group. We became masters of risk management, long before the term ever existed. This period of intense pressure accelerated our mental and social evolution at a rate unseen in any other species. We didn't just evolve biologically. We evolved culturally. Our survival system became based on learning, memory, and social transmission of knowledge, not just on genetic instinct. A lone wolf knows how to hunt because it's in its DNA. A human child learned how to hunt by watching their elders, listening to their stories, and practicing for years under their guidance. This is a profoundly different and more flexible way of adapting to the world. It meant we could change our behavior far faster than our biology could. When the climate shifted or a new predator appeared, we didn't have to wait thousands of generations for a genetic mutation to help us. We could innovate. We could change our strategy. We could learn. This resilience is the key. Humanity didn't become invincible. Crises still happened. Famines, floods, and diseases were a constant threat. But each challenge, each setback, strengthened our collective ability to respond. A failed crop in one area taught us the importance of storing surplus grain. A new disease taught us which plants might have medicinal properties. Our social systems became more complex to manage these challenges. We developed leaders, specialized roles, and rules for living together. We were building the first societies. It's this very resilience that explains our global presence today. While countless other species, many of them stronger and faster than us, vanished, we endured. We adapted to every conceivable biome on the planet, from the scorching heat of the Sahara to the frozen landscapes of the Arctic. We didn't survive because nature suddenly got easier or because we were physically superior. We survived because we became smarter, more cooperative, and endlessly adaptable. In a strange and powerful way, the day humanity almost ended was the day our journey truly began. The struggle against extinction stripped us down to our essential core and forced us to become something new. It forged a species defined not by might, but by mind. Not by instinct alone, but by intelligence and the unbreakable power of unity. And that ancient struggle is not just a distant story from the past. Its echo is all around us. It's in every city we've built, every language we speak, every piece of technology we create. Every time we work together to solve a problem, whether it's building a bridge or sending a rover to Mars, we are tapping into that same legacy of cooperation that saved us tens of thousands of years ago. Our survival was never a guarantee. It was earned. It was earned through fear, through loss, through ingenuity, and through the profound realization that we are stronger together than we could ever be apart. It's a humbling and inspiring truth. The story of our survival is the greatest story ever told, and it's a story that we are all still a part of. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this journey into our deep past as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more explorations into what makes us human. See you in the next one.